This is the EVP Podcast. And welcome back, everyone, to a new episode of EVP Podcast. I am Ghosty.
I'm Beaker.
And I'm DVO.
And on today's episode, we are going to talk about the
Something
old...
spooky.
So, of course it's spooky.
Might be haunted.
And of course it's haunted.
We'll see about that.
We'll see.
I've never been there or heard of this place before today, but we'll see.
I kind of came up with it on a whim, and
By today, I mean when you texted us about it like 3 days ago.
Yes, me too. So, this one's on the old St. Augustine Jail.
How old is it?
Oh, it's old. It was actually built in 1891.
Pretty old.
So it's old
Everything's
shit.
built in the 1890s. It's like super haunted. Waverly was.
Yeah.
That's a
I
good,
think
that's a good year for
Alcatraz was
haunting.
too.
That's a year of hauntings.
Yes.
There was a good decade long of that. So, yeah.
We're going to build
It's
haunted
right in
buildings
there.
now.
It is right in there. So this place is actually... This place was a newly built jail because there was an old jail that was in that town in St. Augustine. And this guy, his name was Henry Flagler.
Yep. Flagler.
He didn't like where it was sitting because it was an eyesore for his nice hotel he's going to build.
I was about to say it was close to something like somewhere near him.
Yeah.
So it was next to his hotel.
Yeah, he was
That
like
makes
straight
sense.
up, this is going to be a resort town.
Yeah,
this
so-
needs to go away.
And then he was going to build the Ponce de Leon Hotel. And he wanted that eyesore gone for his guests. So he told the city, all right, how about $10,000 and you build yourself a new jail somewhere out of my view. So they take that. They build this new jail. And it actually stayed in working up until 1953.
I'm curious what that value is today.
Do you know it was designed by like some of the same dudes that designed
Did
Alcatraz?
Alcatraz, yeah. Same guys that designed Alcatraz built this new jail. So they build this new jail.
Real quick, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
$10,000 in 1890 is equivalent today of almost 309,000. So a pretty good chunk of change. He's like,
Yeah.
hey, move this jail cell.
Yeah.
Go on, get out of here.
So this place was actually built to hold 72 male prisoners and 12 female prisoners.
That's nice. They took that in consideration.
Yeah, they put a female ward in there. Do you know what they did on the outside?
What? Make
They-
it look all pretty?
They made it look all pretty. They made it look like the houses in the area so people didn't know it was the jail.
Yeah, let's take a selfie.
Not bad.
So they actually said, like, when you go to this jail, you're pretty much condemned to die. Like, it was a bad place to go. It was real bad.
Yeah.
They say it's it's a place for, like, some of the really bad criminals.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds like they were just kind of rounding people up and throwing them in there. And, like, the conditions were so bad, they were beating the prisoners. The guards were beating the prisoners were beating each other up, killing each other. And
Raping each other?
Oh, of course. Well,
Most
there's 12
likely.
women in there, too. That they say the 12 women were getting sold around by the guards.
Mm-hmm.
And, just, who knows, maybe the guys were getting sold around, too.
They were in the system.
And they say, it's like some of the worst criminals, but they also are saying that they were just round people up.
Well, you just mentioned maybe the guys too. Actually, the guys were being used as slaves.
Yes,
Being
the
sold as
guys were
slaves.
being sold as slaves. They were doing free farm labor for different farms in the area. Let's see. They said this place was the Green Mile minus happy-go-lucky Tom Hanks. Filled to the rafter with Sam Rockwell's. But yeah, they ended up hanging 8 men in the gallows there. So there was 8 different hangings. So one of them being somebody who they thought was innocent, who was saying he was innocent up until the day he died.
Yeah, there's 2 guys. Robert Lee was the one that was innocent, and then it was, I believe, Jim Kirby was the other one. And they both said, Jim was straight up saying, or James was saying, like, Robert's innocent. He had nothing to do with this. And he, like, before he died, he was telling his story and he did interviews with reporters. He's like, I'm innocent. And he's like, my story's going to be told in the next life. And they hung him. They didn't care. They hung him anyways.
So here's a little bit about how bad the conditions were. All right, it says the conditions were incredibly poor and dreadful. Prisoners were typically used as free farm laborers and forced to slug it out as indentured servants in the Florida heat for plantation owners. The guards and the warden lining their pockets with money that was supposed to go to the building maintenance and their charges. Meanwhile, after a day-breaking toil, the condemned were marched back into the jailhouse and basically crammed into small cells. Baths were a pipe dream. Toilets were nothing more than a shared bucket that was passed from cell to cell when the need arose, and beds were slabs of termite-infested wood that served as a collective cot. Prisoners had to supplement their diets with whatever they managed to catch, either inside their cells or while working in the fields. Segregation by race was steadfastly adhered to at the jail, and illness, brutality, and death were common. That sounds like a good place to go on vacation, right?
Oh yeah, let's go.
I wonder how much that is.
Do you know they also so death row was within view of the gallows, so they could see where they were going to be.
Pretty much everyone there was on death row, though.
Yeah.
Like, hey, just so you know, look outside there. I got something for you.
It says, on any given day, prisoners would brutalize one another, guards would vent their frustration out on flesh, and females would be raped and peddled out as sex workers. Damn. And it sounds like they would just kind of gather people up. This says right here, the county would drag women of low character and reputation into the jail. They'd pull off a pig circus of a trial and sentence the lady to a hard time. If you didn't have a family, were poor, were lacking a husband, had some sort of mental disorder, or were pretty on the eyes and had no one to defend you, the cops would round you up and throw you into the system. So it doesn't even sound like you're a hardened criminal.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the men were let out as slaves, traveling the country in cages, shackled together by their ankles, working without the proper equipment, and sometimes didn't even have shoes. They would return back to the building with open wounds. They say inmates usually only lasted about 2 years before dying from infection, violence, illness, malnutrition, or hanging. The only time a doctor ever visited the place was on hanging days. Cholera, tuberculosis, and hundreds of other diseases ran rampant throughout the jailhouse. The death rate was staggering, and some blowback, the numbers were fixed by the county. So sounds like they were fudging numbers, making it sound like people were just escaping left and right.
Probably.
So that's just craziness of how bad that was.
Yeah.
And it was just inside this pretty little building that made the town look pretty.
Yeah, don't want to ruin the reputation of the hotel nearby.
Yeah.
The
Well,
new
the-
hotel.
It was a beautiful hotel, I bet. I would love to see this
Ponce
hotel.
de Leon.
I wonder if that's
sounds
on it.
fancy.
It sounds real fancy.
It's like you said, it was built to hold 72 male prisoners. They have way more than that because they were getting money basically to here's these prisoners, and they got some of the farmers were actually paying the sheriff from that.
Yeah, they were lining their pockets with
They were
for
getting
their
money to
slave labor,
Yeah, and so they put as many
working
people,
them to the bone.
Yes, so they overcrowded the jail just so they could get more money. And it wasn't until 1953 when the governor of Florida was like, "Oh, this is bad. We should shut it down."
I don't like where this is going.
It only took 60 years. This is
It's
bad.
gonna come back on me, isn't it? I want to get reelected, damn it.
Obviously, it probably wasn't the same governor that when it opened, but yeah, it took 60 years before someone's like, no, this is no good. I mean, like you said, there was no baths, there was no showers, there's no plumbing at all. In
They
this
had a
place.
bucket though.
They had a bucket to poop in.
Pass around to each other. Hey, you guys want to
Here's
touch my
pictures. I
poop?
mean, it's a nice looking hotel.
I guess for the 1800s, yeah.
Yeah,
So maybe you can't tell so much, but that's from their website.
for on the YouTubes.
I mean, have you seen the Driscoll though?
No. Yep.
Yeah, for the 1890s, this is a good looking hotel.
These hotel owners, man, they had some money. They still do, but that was kind of like the leads to hauntings. Hotel
Yeah.
owners lead to hauntings.
This one's hotel haunting adjacent. Because it's not the hotel that's haunted. Maybe I don't know. I haven't looked
Go
into it.
on.
Well, it's like the Cecil Hotel.
Cecil.
That became a super haunted hotel. The Stanley, the Driscoll. I mean, there's so many hotels. This one is like the prison next to it's haunted. But I haven't seen anything about the actual hotel being.
I've never heard anything about this because it's pretty. And it was
It's
built
pretty.
on.
The Stanley's pretty.
It was built away from everything, so it stays haunt free.
Yeah.
So go on about some hauntings
Well,
there.
I'm just kind of looking here. People have visited the jail, reporting hearing dogs barking in the middle of the night, banging on cell walls. They seem to see ghosts walking down the main door and then vanishing into thin air. Also, bouncing orbs of light. Again, orbs. They could be a lot of fake things. But if you see one just kind of start bouncing around in the middle of the night, that could be something behind that one. One thing I read here is the spot that seems to exhibit the most paranormal activity is the solitary cell, which is inside the max security cell. Everyone has claimed to see a shadowy figure that would lurk towards them. They reported that figures would charge at them and try to scratch them. So pretty interesting. I actually was just watching a YouTube channel by this name. He goes by the Ghost Doctor, and he was investigating in there, and they were using a device called the Frank's box. Something I'd never heard of before. It reminded me of a spirit box. Let me go back to kind of what it was. It seems like what this gentleman created. Now, what I read is that he was told from disembodied entities how to create this. So, take it for what it's worth.
Oh, that's just like...
But basically, what he did is it's another version of this spirit box where
He's a prophet.
It's scanning through AM FM channels for brief, not even seconds at a time. Also, at the same time, white noise is being produced by this. It's also, I'm trying to remember again what they called it, like a
Frank's box.
But I mean, what they use, like something voltage. Let me try to find it real quick.
So are you finding that some of the other things that people have said reported there at the jail is unpleasant aromas, such as raw sewage, which would make sense because the buckets were being passed around. They didn't bath. They couldn't take baths because there was no showers. And then people also smell something. They describe it smells like boiling molasses on, like if someone had it on the stove. You mentioned barking dogs.
Yeah.
Darking bogs. That's our TikTok clip. They also hear sinister laughing and wailing. There's reports of wailing, moaning sounds coming from maximum security and solitary confinement areas. And visitors have also reported hearing a voice of a little girl coming from the sheriff's quarters. Other people have heard someone whistling at them, and several guests have also reported hearing a dastardly laugh in one of the women's cells.
Dastardly.
And then there's cold spots. I mean, that's kind of common.
Yes.
I mean, in Florida, I would take it as more of a sign of a haunt or a ghost.
Where it's always warm there.
Where it's always warm. I mean,
Sure.
There's no air conditioning in the building, so it's most likely at least 10 degrees hotter inside than it is outside. So if you're finding cold spots in a place like this, it's more likely that, yes, you are encountering a ghost.
Going back to this Frank's box, it's a method called voltage tuning. So, yeah, interesting enough. So, yeah, sweeping through dead radio stations and then also like white noise.
Voltage tuning. Is it tuning into where it's getting higher voltages? I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just telling you
Science.
what I'm reading.
Science, baby.
So on this YouTube channel called Ghost Doctor, they were using this Frank's box. But anyway, during the episode, there was a part where they had asked, there's two investigators that asked, do you want us to leave? And they heard a yes. You couldn't hear it through the audio, but they could hear it while they were there. But you kind of see the reaction at the same time. So, take it for what that's worth. But anyway, they were using this Frank's box. And I'll play this clip as well, but just to kind of give you some base behind it. They asked, "What's your name?" They heard the word Tom come through. Then a little bit of a pause. Then they heard the word horses come through. And then you hear the word stop it. And that one sounded pretty clear. I kind of like that one. So then they asked, "What were you in prison for?" Then you hear the word steal come through. And then they ask, how long were you in jail for? How many years? And then you hear 4. So it's pretty interesting. I'll play that right now if you guys can hear that.
Can you answer those questions with this box? What's your name? What's your name? Tom? Horses. I heard horses. Were you a horse thief? Did you steal?
yeah.
Stop it. Stop what? What were you in prison for? Stealing. Hear that? Yeah, stealing. How long were you in jail for? How many years? 4?
So I mean, it's a little harder to hear on here. If you actually look up Saint Augustine Jail on YouTube and find this ghost doctor video, it's about the 7.5 mark. It sounds a little bit more clear on the YouTube channel versus my recording of it, but it did sound a lot more clear. It's pretty interesting.
All of that, all I heard was stop it, and I heard the yes.
I heard the 4 pretty clear.
Yeah, the 4. Yeah, I heard the 4 pretty good. The name Tom, it's
kinda
hard to tell.
iffy.
Yeah,
Tom,
kinda iffy.
horses, I didn't really hear it all.
Horses was in
Horses
a-
was very clear on the YouTube channel.
Okay,
I'll play that for you a little later.
Well, we can probably put a link to this video in our description
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
But I just off this recording, I did hear stop it, and I did hear yes.
Yeah.
Very clear.
I would like to see more of this Frank's box because I like how you're not hearing a lot of that static
Staticky,
noise and
yeah.
and the other radio airplay that there's just a lot of that usually that comes through. But I like that was just the only sounds you're hearing are the words coming out.
Yeah.
I
See,
did
and
like
that sounds very similar to Huff Paranormal's the box that they came out with.
Yeah, he's got so many boxes.
It's like one that uses like a reverb pedal, and basically all you're hearing is it's
Takes your voice and it like reverberates it throughout itself.
So I think
constantly.
it still scans through the FM AM frequencies, but I mean you have to use the app or whatever that's on the computer with this device, but it filters out all of that scanning and it's just giving you just the voices.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's what his things are. What, like $1,500?
I think you can buy the stuff to build your own for a lot less. Like he even on his website when I first found out about these had a link to all the Amazon
The parts.
so you could build your own. But yeah,
Shall we?
I think his cheapest one was like $600.
You guys feel like some engineers?
I know engineers. We could build one. It shouldn't be that hard. I haven't ever done it.
I'm down.
Interesting.
So there's this other spirit there that they see in the darkest of the dark areas called the Crawler. Did you get any info on that?
Just what they talked about on Kindred Spirits. I didn't see it on any of the websites I was looking at, but apparently this one, the way they described it in the show, it was the general manager, Stephen, I believe his name was, said like it didn't even. Some of the times you'd see it like crawling on the floor, but one time he said he saw it. It looked like it was just crawling across like the bars on the jail cell. It wasn't even on the floor, and it's like you said, he saw it in like the darkest of the dark. It wasn't, and he always saw it in like maximum security and like solitary and death rows, like the places you mainly see this thing.
What was that thing he was talking about where he was thinking there was one of the people on the tour following him?
Oh yeah, so this is when he saw it on the crossing the bars on the jail cell. He was going somewhere and he saw someone following him, and he's like, "This is weird. Why is one of the visitors following me?" And as he got a little bit farther into the jail cell, that's when he realized it wasn't actually one of the guests of the tour. It was the Crawler following him.
What did he see again? I can't remember what it was he said he saw, like when he turned around and looked.
If I remember correctly, it was just he said it saw it, like this dark figure crawling across the bars.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if he said something else, I don't remember, but that's what I do remember is he said it. He saw it crawling across the bars. He was also, when he was taking him upstairs, Adam and Amy on Kindred Spirits, when he was taking him upstairs, he told a story about how he got about halfway up the stairs and he felt the chest like a hand hit his chest and just shoved him back down the stairs.
Interesting.
And apparently a lot of people have reported being like
Shoved on the stairs.
But he said he actually he was shoved and fell backwards. He actually went down the stairs.
That's dangerous. That'd be scary as hell. What would you guys do if you got pushed down the stairs?
Bring it on.
Fall.
Well, after you got up, what would you do? Would you tell anybody?
Yeah, I'm like, hey,
I think we'd hear
just
him
got
fall.
pushed. We remember Benson
that a
Grist Mill when
squatch
that one
falling?
spirit was like trying to push me down the stairs in the big mill?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, I told you then. I'm like, this guy's
Well, I
trying
mean,
to trip
I'm
me.
talking about after something pushed you down and you already hit the ground.
Well, if I had a
Squatch
camera,
calling.
yeah, if I had my camera, I'd show it to you. I'd be like, check this shit out. I'd tell you, and I'd be like, let's go talk to it.
Okay, hell yeah. So,
Yeah,
but the Amy was over when she was kind of getting set up for everything. She saw something crawling on the ground too.
yeah, she did. It's when they were starting. Like it was, I think it was before. No, it was after they started their EVP session. They went back and listened to some of their audio, and as they were listening to it, she saw this thing, like just scurrying across the floor. And at the same time, Adam saw something out in the hallway, like a person.
Oh, he saw a shadow figure.
Yeah, he saw a shadow figure out in the hallway.
Right after she saw that something crawled across. So it seems like it crawled and then got up and took off running or something.
And it's not unusual. Like I've had times where I've seen the spirit and pointed it out, and it took off. So it could have been one of those where she's like, I just saw this. She's
Probably
like,
just shadow people.
Originally, she's like, I don't even want to say what I just saw, but then she says it.
Yeah, and she says it anyway.
And I've experienced this myself when you point out, like, you see a spirit, and you kind of point it out, and then they're like, oh, shit, they saw me, so they run away.
The shadow people always run away.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if they just saw shadow people, or if the crawler is just a shadow person. But
Probably.
I don't know if the crawler's reaching out and trying to scratch people and hurt people, though.
Let's go there and find out.
Let's go figure this out ourselves. They did get some EVPs, Amy and Adam, and this one being probably their one good one that out of all the ones that they had.
Most of them just, to me, sounded like grunts and, like, just random noises.
Sound like, oh.
They like ask a question and you hear, they're like, oh, it said Lee.
Yes.
It said yes. It said Lee. It said tell them. And I'm just like, no, it just kind of is clearing its throat. But they did have one EVP that I think was the best out of everything that they had. This one I think you can actually hear clearly. We'll see how it transposes onto the recording.
Okay, and then this one, the way it's, you'll hear them talking. So this is them listening back to their recording.
Yeah.
So they're listening to it, kind of talking a little bit, and then you can hear them saying something on the recorder, and after they're done talking, you'll hear the EVP.
I'm not a murderer.
It doesn't sound that good on here, huh?
No, it doesn't. It might sound better
not a
like when we
murderer.
play the
It
recording
does.
back.
It sounds a
but
little different when, like,
I think it's just because our
so
headphones.
people
and the
listening,
volume.
watching, you know, we're wearing headphones as we record this, and we have mics in front of us. We can hear each other talking. But as these go through the mic, especially when you turn up the volume, they get a little distorted. But when it translates onto podcast, when people are listening on podcasts,
Sounds better.
It does sound a little better.
So
Yeah, I've gone back and listened to some of the ones we played in the past,
So
and
this
they sound
one's
a lot
saying-
clearer.
yeah.
I'm not a murderer. And they think it's the spirit of one of the guys who was hung there.
Did this happen right before the lady repeats it? Was this like right before that? Was there a little bit of space?
Yes, yeah.
Because
we played
Adam,
it
You'll
again.
hear
was-
him saying, it's something. You'll hear him say three things: blah 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 blah.
it'd be like murderers, rapists, or whatever. Like they're basically telling any spirit that wants to come talk to him can.
Okay, and then right after that, then she repeats it.
Yeah, right
okay.
after it's been said, it gets said. There's a kind of like a pause, and then she repeats it.
Okay, let's do it again. Very breathy,
It's
yeah.
literally right after he's like,
Yeah.
murder, outlaw. You hear it just
Murder,
like
outlaw,
immediately.
whoever. I'm not a murderer.
Yeah, it's like
Okay.
instantly after.
What is his question? What is his question?
So they're literally just at this point in the show saying whoever wants to come talk to us can. So they're like, whether you're a murderer, an outlaw, whatever you are. Because before this, Amy says the same thing. She's like, any spirit that wants to come talk to us, whether you were incarcerated here or if you worked here.
Okay.
So when
And
he's
then he's
asked
like, yeah,
about a
murderer, outlaw, whatever you are.
and so his
basically, is what he's
response
saying.
was, "I'm not a murderer."
Okay, we'll do it again. Yeah.
Not a murderer.
And that's probably the best EVP they got on that entire episode.
That's a lot of syllables.
Yeah, it is a lot of syllables. I was actually just pulling pictures of the old St. Augustine Jail. Yeah, it does look nice. Very Victorian looking.
Yeah.
That's what. Yep.
Yeah, they did that on purpose, like I said, to detract
no
from the
eyesores.
fact that it was
Looks
actually
like a
jail
library
cell.
or a school. You know, you can look at it. It looks like maybe a
You know
library
why?
or a
Because
school.
old Henry Flagler had the money for it. That's why.
Yeah.
So it looked really nice on the outside. It was really gross on the inside. Like literally, like poop everywhere.
They say
Because
the
of buckets.
maximum security was equivalent to Arkham Asylum, with all the
The Riddlers
Batman.
and Jokers.
Yes. They're all in there just
All the bad men
being psycho together.
Yes.
doing slave labor.
Doing free slave labor like they're supposed to. But anyways, was that it for the old jail? Do we got more on it?
I don't think I do.
I think that's about all I got too.
Well, all right.
I know that like the sheriff and the deputy lived on site too. They had their own. So like where they got these EVPs, this first one where the I'm not a murderer, they were actually in the sheriff's like little house there on the property.
Oh, because he had to live there?
Yeah, the sheriff and his family actually lived on the property. They had their own, and it was like you look at where they lived, and you know where they were recording this when they see the shadow figure. It's like literally just outside of the door of the sheriff's like living room is the jail cells.
Oh, I bet it stunk in there then.
That would. Yeah.
You got your kids in there?
They did use some device that I've been wanting to buy, and we've looked at while we were in Vegas.
Oh, the Flux.
They used the Flux 2. And haven't seen any like reviews really about it or any videos online of it being used. This is the first time I've actually seen someone use it. And when they were talking about the assistant manager, Emmanuel, anytime they said his name, this thing went off. And it wasn't like, as you're watching, because they used it like 2 or 3 nights in a row. As they were using it, you know, throughout the episode, you never really saw it go off until they mentioned Emmanuel's name on the second night. And so they actually brought him in to have him like introduce the spirits to him. So they hoping the spirits would open up a little bit more. And that's when they got more information about Robert Lee and his story about, you know, being wrongfully hung for something he didn't do.
Apparently there's a lighthouse nearby that's pretty haunted. St. Augustine Lighthouse.
Yeah, that's supposed to be one of the... I think I have seen a couple episodes on that one from like the original Ghost Hunters. I think Ghost Adventures was there. Yeah,
I saw a lot about the lighthouse, like a lot of YouTube videos and some of the other TV shows, episodes about the lighthouse, but it was kind of hard to find a whole lot about the jail cell. And this is like apparently the oldest jail in America.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, they also said St. Augustine is like the first town.
So they have ghost tours at this jail. We can.
Yeah, I actually watched some girl on YouTube doing a ghost tour or doing her paranormal investigation. Something like they have experienced paranormal investigators teach you how to use the equipment. I thought it was funny because the girl was like going over the equipment and didn't know what any of it was. There's 4 pieces of equipment. It looked like they give you like a REM pod, a K2 meter, an SB11, and dowsing rods. She had no idea what any of them were and what they did. I thought it was funny because she was doing like her investigation and she was just kind of making fun of the whole situation because you can kind of tell that she's like doesn't really believe, but she was doing it just because it's the fun, scary
TikTok
thing to do.
Yeah.
But she mentioned how like she's the only one that didn't have any experiences. Like she kind of secretly recorded some of the other ticket goers talking about their experience, and it's like apparently everybody experienced something but me. And I guess with the ghost tour, it's only like a half an hour.
What?
Yeah. Like when you get to do the investigation, you only get to go investigate for like a half an hour.
So they're probably outside. They're telling the whole history outside, and you go in for half hour, then you're done probably.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay, so yeah, probably like a half-hour history briefing.
Yeah.
And
But if we do something like that, I'll hit them up and be like, hey,
all night long, baby.
we want a couple hours. A half hour is just.
Don't you know who we are? We're the EVP team.
Yeah, all night long, baby.
Everybody knows who we are. We're famous. We're getting a yacht.
Hell yeah, we are. But yeah, that's about it for this episode of the EVP podcast. Those who don't play that.
Peace out, butterflies.
If a ginger squatch falls down in a haunted house and no one's there to hear it, did he really fall down? Stay tuned to find out.
Ooh.
This is the EVP Podcast.